God, those old movies are timepieces, aren't they? They are products of their time.
They are.
And make me a sandwich. Slaps her in the ass.
Bitch.
Yeah, I mean,
take off your clothes and roll around on my body. That sounds like Pink Panther. I know we had Henry Mancini on the podcast.
Oh, well, thanks for joining us all back at the Digital Drive-In, where we talk about all of our favorite movies and why we like them and what makes them great. My name is Alex. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Garrett Donardo.
Hello.
And Garrett, what movie did we watch today down at the Drive-In?
We watched the James Bond classic, Casino Royale.
From 1960. Oh. I watched the wrong movie.
Oh, no.
Well, what are we going to do now?
We'll discover what the difference is between the two of them.
Well, I actually watched the 2006 one, so that's not going to happen anymore.
Okay. Promises.
This is the first James Bond film starring Daniel Craig, who, as the time of this recording, is still James Bond. A whopping 12 years later, the longest tenure as James Bond. And he only has 4 movies. What's your history with either the James Bond franchise or specifically with Casino Royale, Garrett?
Well, I mean, the James Bond franchise, I remember my dad watching them when I was really young, and Sean Connery was basically Bond. But I like, it kept getting sillier, I guess, as it went. I mean, not that the first ones were like extremely serious, but I guess they were maybe cooler because of the time period. But as they kind of got into like the late 70s, early 80s, it almost became like a farce. It was almost like making fun of itself, I guess, not taking itself seriously.
I mean, we were making fun of it in the pre-roll before the theme song. Like, they're very much products of their own time, right?
Yeah. Yes.
It was cool back then, and now you look on it and it's a little can't do that anymore.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a time capsule of things, and it seems like the ones when I was growing up as a teenager just weren't as interesting to me. But then with this with Daniel Craig, it seemed like they tried to reboot it into a more gritty, maybe a more. I mean, you don't want to necessarily say adult in the fact like it's R-rated. It's still PG-13, but it maybe tries to take itself a little more seriously.
It's very reaction. It almost feels reaction to the Bourne franchise.
I would 100% agree with that.
The Bourne trilogy, which hadn't finished yet, but was about to. I believe the last one was in 2007, The Bourne Ultimatum.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Of course, starring Matthew Damon. Sort of reinvigorate Matt Damon. Sort of reignited the spy genre, I think, right? We got a lot more movies after that. At least a lot more mainstream ones.
Yeah, I mean, you could even say the Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise did some, and that's one of the things I guess we could talk about at some point too, is how a lot of different films and franchises kind of like took over when Bond was slacking.
Yeah, very much so. There was a time when The Bourne would be the best of the franchise. I would say right now, Mission Impossible is probably the best of the 3 big spy franchises.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like parodies are really big too.
Yeah.
So I think in some aspects it was kind of hard to go back to what made Bond because now it was something to make fun of.
You almost have to shake it up.
Mm-hmm.
You have to change the game and elevate. Otherwise, you are again a parody, which we almost see a little bit later in Spectre. I would say.
Yeah.
It almost reverts in a bad way back to what it used to be.
Yep. They can't leave it alone.
Campy, but trying to be serious, which is one of the biggest defenses you can make.
So it's interesting, they got the director that previously had done GoldenEye, which I think might have made the most money up to that point of the Bourne movies. Oh my god, of the Bond movies.
GoldenEye is my
And
favorite Mission Impossible.
GoldenEye is the best video game James Bond, probably.
That is true.
But then he also did like The Mask of Zorro and Vertical Limit and the masterpiece Green Lantern.
Oof.
So he's just
what a great film.
He's a well-rounded director that has basically done hardly anything since then.
yeah. And rightfully so, because that Abomination is a piece of garbage. Just like Casino Royale.
No.
Gotcha. I actually hate this film. I lied to you. I would say this is probably my favorite Bond film.
I would say as an individual Bond film, I think I might like it the most. But like overall as Bond, I still Connery's like the guy.
Yeah, well, that's a different discussion, I think.
Right. But just as an individual film, I really like the direction they went in this, and yeah, there's a lot of good things in it, and then it changes it enough. So,
this is really close to what Fleming kind of had in mind with the original Bond movies. I don't know how much Fleming you've read.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those. I know that I did back in my teenage years, but that's been so long ago that it just kind of like is an amalgamated mess in my head. So I remember reading some, but I can't say anything about any of them specifically.
I haven't read much, but I have read and can remember Casino Royale. And this is very close to what the book's tone is.
Mm-hmm.
And the books are a little bit more gritty than the Roger Moore era, which I think a lot of people still kind of associate James Bond as.
Mm-hmm. It's
a little bit more, the books were grittier than that. You know, they were written from a very much post-war mentality. And I don't want to say the horrors of war, but he experienced a lot in his time. Fleming was part of the Secret Service kind of, or special forces, British Special Forces. He experienced a lot
like
in there.
The OSS or something.
Yeah, it was him and Christopher Lee actually I don't know if they worked like directly together, but they knew each other in that time to the point where there's been not speculation, I don't think, but I think I read somewhere that Bond was actually based on Christopher Lee back in the day, like in that post-war time or in that wartime, which is pretty interesting considering, you know, the man with the golden gun, of course, where Christopher Lee plays the villain. Why don't we dive on into this one, though, Garrett?
Okay.
Let me go on a little bit of a tangent there.
No, well, I was just thinking, like, you know, Saruman as a Bond is. Anyway,
Saruman's heavy metal album.
I'm Christopher Lee.
R.I.P. Chris Lee. It rhymed.
Yeah, he's a badass. Wow. It's Dracula.
Speaking of badass, the movie drops you right into this sweet action sequence, does it not?
Kerplunk.
I mean, a little bit of a. Actually, it doesn't drop you right into it. There's a little bit of a slow little opening, black and white kind of mystery.
Yeah, it's kind of establishing that this is the start of his 00 career.
Yes, Bond. No, he doesn't even say that there.
I was wondering what you were doing exactly.
But he actually, before this action sequence I want to talk about, we get a bitchin' ass theme.
Chris Cornell,
rest in peace. You Know My Name, it's called, and it's one of my favorite Bond songs, if not my favorite. It's rad as all hell. And the sequence that it goes along with is so beautifully animated.
I really like that. And the steel book has that as the cover.
I know. I want the steel book, but I can't find it anywhere. So
I have it.
So if any listeners out there, you know, yeah. Anyway,
if any listeners out there, what you never finished that?
No,
you want them to send it to you for free?
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, hook me up. Come on. But you know, that's a sweet title sequence with the cards, and I love all you can see like Vesper's face in the one card as like the thing goes by, which is dope. But then we get dropped into a parkour action sequence.
Yes,
which I know you wanted to talk about.
Well, I don't remember parkour before this. I mean, I'm sure it probably was a thing because it would have had to have gotten to a certain popularity in order for it to be considered in a Bond film. But the the visceral and the kinetic sequences, like it actually feels like the guy is transferring weight and being violent in his running style. And I like the way that's conveyed visually and audibly. The sound effects are really good in this sequence as well. It's really heart pumping. You get the adrenaline up because it's like the guy's just bouncing back and forth. You know, they're like in these concrete walls, like dust flying everywhere, and he's like hopping over saw blades and everything.
Yeah. He's jumping down one floor in an elevator shaft, bouncing off the wall, and then back in through the other door.
It's edited really well because there's like a lot of stuff going on, but it's easy to keep track of where everyone is and what's happening.
Yes. Which makes Quantum of Solace, the next movie, worse, because that movie is edited like it's a mess.
Yes. I like the difference between like the styles. Like it has this guy hopping over things, and then like Bond just like breaks through the drywall. I was going to say
that, where he smashes the drywall. Yeah. It shows sort of finesse versus, brute force.
Yeah, because they kind of call him even like a wrecking ball.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the exact word M used.
Blunt instrument.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the same guy that edited Superman.
The original?
Yeah.
Oh.
And Lethal Weapon? Oh, he also edited Tommy and Listomania. So it's like the music video style. He and Alex Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare.
He also directed Star Trek Nemesis.
Yeah.
So do with that what you will.
Maybe he should have stayed as an editor.
I mean, he also directed U.S. Marshals, which isn't terrible.
Yeah, it's fine. It's interesting. He directed Casino Royale and then skipped to Skyfall. So apparently he should just edit James Bond.
Yeah. Those are the two best. Those are my top two, honestly. Skyfall gets bonus points because of the Roger Deakins cinematography.
Right. And it's a good villain, too. That always helps.
Yes. I think that's what this movie does incredibly well, too.
Yeah, who's the villain?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
Voldemort?
No.
Is it Darth Vader?
No.
It's Thanos.
That's Le Chiffre. But the actor...
The Shiv?
The Shiv.
Not at all what it stands for.
One is a blunt instrument, and the other is a stabbing utensil.
Oh, one works with precision.
It's Galen Erso.
Who's
from
that?
Rogue One.
Wow. Holy.
It's Lucas from Jagton.
Oh, wow. Oh, it's Draco from Clash of the Titans.
It's Dr. Hannibal Lecter and one of the four.
It's fucking Mads Mikkelsen. God damn it. Let's get to the point. This went on for too long. This bit was way too long.
Death Stranding.
That bit, oh my god. That was way too long of a bit. That was like 10 minutes.
Well, let's keep bringing up the point that it was a bit.
That's staying in.
Yeah, I like Mads. I think he's a really good bad guy.
I agree. If you haven't watched Hannibal, do that. Because he's great in that.
Yeah, anything where he's a main character is probably worth seeing.
Anything that he's in is probably worth seeing.
Well...
Because he's really good in his role every time. What? You don't like him in Rihanna, Bitch Better Have My Money music video?
I don't think I ever saw that.
I don't know. Apparently that's what he's in it. Anyway. Yeah, Mads Mikkelsen as Le Chiffre. A very, very interesting villain, is he not? Yeah.
And he has an interesting look where his eye produces blood and he has to dab at it. Get it up. Don't want that blood dripping down my face. I think that's the exact words he uses.
Exactly how he does it too. The first time it happens and the eye, it's dripping down, the blood's dripping down his eye. He goes, "Ooh, beep, 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 beep. Gotta get that blood out of my face."
He's like, "Bitch, you be tripping." Daniel Craig walks in on his yacht. He's like, "Shit, Honky, what you doing in here?"
You want some eye blood?
I'll get it juiced up for you.
Oh, come here, smack me on the back of the head and make it go faster. But Mads has specifically, I guess, I don't know if I want to jump there, but one really great scene where he tortures Bond,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is one of the more famous scenes from this movie.
Yeah,
I
I'd
would
say
say.
so. Mm-hmm.
Which
Because you don't
it
expect it
always
to
gets
happen.
me. It always
Yeah.
gets me a little. It always makes me recoil a little bit because
Right.
it's brutal. But it's brutal. I don't even want to talk about it. It hurts too much. Where he's whipping him with a carpet cleaner or whatever, the carpet beater, whatever it's
Yeah.
called.
Cut the hole out underneath the chair so
Yeah.
the bits drop
And he's
down.
naked. Bond is naked, strapped to the chair, dangling
He's
a little
in
bit.
bondage.
Ugh. So, well, this is the final episode of the Digital to Drive-In podcast, everybody.
Well, it was good while it lasted. We had a nice run of
No,
6
it was not.
or 5 or however many.
I think we've
That's
done
fine.
about 15,
Something like that.
42 episodes.
What about the ladies of the Bond universe?
What about the ladies of the Bond? Garrett.
I think there is a good, strong dual role. We have 2 really good ladies starring. Judi Dench as M. I think she plays like a superior role really well.
And
She kind of
she was M. What was her first one? GoldenEye?
something like that.
That was loud.
What?
Right in my ear.
Well, you do have headphones on, shithead. Let's see.
But at this point, she's kind of ingrained into the role. Yeah, it was GoldenEye, and she just commands. Like, you feel her command over MI6.
But she has to play it a little bit different than what she did at the start too, because this is supposed to be like a reboot.
Yeah, I like that we get a little glimpse of her family life at one point. Just a small little glimpse. I don't know why, but I've always liked that scene where she gets woken up in bed and she just has like her husband's just sleeping beside her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's a lot of moments in this movie that are really humanizing.
Exactly. I think that was one of the things they tried to make Bond more of an actual person and flesh out his character.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of little details like that can help you appreciate the film for what it is. And in the same aspect with Eva Green,
Mm-hmm.
And how Bond reacts to Vesper and what kind of a relationship and how that relationship grows and changes, so it appears. I think is interesting to have that kind of a foil to him.
She's one of the less overtly sexualized Bond girls.
Mm-hmm.
She has. It almost feels like her sexualization has purpose to the story a little bit.
Yeah, because she's not treated as an object.
No, she's treated as another piece, a very important piece of this puzzle, and how to win the game and break Lashif kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. Break the conspiracy. They use her like, I want everybody to be you and thinking about you and not about their cards.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes along with it, and I think Eva Green plays that role perfectly. And like you were saying, a very, very good foil for the very rough and brash Bond that Craig plays in this film.
And it's sort of like he is shown, especially at the beginning of the film, as being like a maverick and just kind of like doing whatever he wants and only thinking about himself.
Mm-hmm.
But this is kind of like a wrench in the gear works as to how he has to work a little bit differently now that he's like responsible for more people.
Yeah. And similarly to the book, she does end up kind of teaching him not to trust anyone,
mm-hmm.
but anyone at all, even if you love them and they love you, you still can't trust them, kind of thing.
Yep.
Which I think it works slightly more in the book, that aspect. It's a little bit more heavy-handed in the movie.
Right.
Not in a bad way, not in an offensive way in any way, but the book takes it. If I recall correctly, the book ends. The last line in the book is "the bitch is dead," and then it's done. So it's kind of just like, now Bond understands what he has to do, kind of thing.
Right.
What he has to be. Obviously, he still cares for it, but he can't make it overt. He can't show that care at all. Not in this world. He opened his armor up, right? He talked about how his armor was all stripped away.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't do that in this line of duty, in this business. You have to have that armor up at all times, even if it's somebody you think you really like.
Which would have been a great launching point for Bond, is like showing how he became what he is. And then the next movie show him like at full power. But it's like the next couple movies, they almost didn't learn from that.
No. The next movie is just him being mopey and wanting revenge. And then Skyfall just throws them both out the window a little bit and goes like, let's just go Bond, whatever.
Yeah, and then Spectre screws it all up again.
Yeah, but I mean, Skyfall does it in a good way.
Right.
Like I was saying earlier, I really love Skyfall as well, but I hate Spectre, and I hate or strongly dislike Quantum as well.
Yeah, I would agree. It's you can watch Casino Royale and you can watch Skyfall, and that's basically all you need to watch for the Daniel Craig Bonds. I mean, maybe the new one will be good. I don't know.
That's what I was hoping. I was hoping that like Bond 25 would actually be good, because then I could just ignore those two and have a good 1, 2, 3 trilogy of disconnected movies. Because this movie does end. It ends with like a little bit of sequel bait towards Quantum, but they didn't have to pick it up. They did, but they didn't have to.
Right.
It's just introducing the character, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you could watch that, it's bookended. We could watch Skyfall as its own thing. And then if the next one is really good and sort of end caps him as Bond, it doesn't do any Spectre bullshit, then the three of them could just be like the supreme Craig trilogy, and you can just forget about the rest. But interestingly enough, these guys have written every Bond movie since The World Is Not Enough. They wrote The World Is Not Enough, Die Another Day, Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, Spectre, and now they're writing Bond 25.
They need new blood.
Yeah. They also wrote Johnny English.
Yeah, I did not like those movies.
Oh, I don't like you anymore.
That's fine.
They're making a third one, Garrett.
I know. It's just not for me.
I know. I gotcha. I just like watching Rowan Atkinson do things. I mean, I acknowledge they're not great. I just like watching him do things.
It's like his character upsets me.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. It's just like, no, that character would not live in this world. And, well, the other thing is, too, every single one of these type of, like, bumbling, idiot savant characters that's in this kind of, like, secret agency police world always goes back to Peter Sellers' Inspector Clouseau, and no one ever tops Peter Sellers' Inspector Clouseau.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. As much as they all try, but I mean, like I said, I just like watching... I'll watch almost anything with Atkinson in it.
That's so fair.
Obviously, Mr. Bean is very, very influential and hilarious, but fucking Blackadder is so good.
Yep.
Blackadder is so good. I watched a lot of Mr. Bean and a lot of Blackadder kid, so it kind of just cemented that that Atkinson, like, whatever he makes, I'm there kind of thing.
I love the thing with Blackadder, how with each season he gets he's not as high as a position of authority, but he actually gets more intelligent.
Yeah.
And I love how they show that dichotomy of, like, when he's like the king's son, he's an idiot. And at the end, he's just like a guy, and he's like super intelligent, but all of the people that are in power are idiots.
Back to Bond now.
I want a radish.
But yeah, I think that going back to what we were talking about with the writing and all that, I don't know what it is. They don't even seem to have a formula, like a pattern. Do you like The World Is Not Enough?
I didn't really like any of the Brosnan ones.
Okay. Because I was gonna say
they were fine.
The World Is Not Enough is not terrible.
Yeah. It just there's nothing to stand out.
It's kind of Star Trek-y if you look at it. So
wasn't that the one that's like
theoretically Bond 25 is going to be good?
Having Christmas in July.
Yes, I think so.
Like, what a terrible line.
Is it though?
Yeah, actually.
Okay.
I mean, I don't like Denise Richards anyway.
No. But The World Is Not Enough, let's say, is good. Let's just say, for the sake of this argument.
Okay.
Die Another Day is garbage. The next one they did was Casino Royale, which was great. Then they did Quantum of Solace, which was garbage. Then they did Skyfall, which was great. Then they did Spectre, which was garbage. Back to back like that. So theoretically, Bond 25 should be pretty good. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We can hope.
Oh, sure, we can hope, yeah.
And Cary Fukunaga, or I don't even know how to pronounce his name, is a great director. So I'm looking forward to it a little bit. If you haven't watched True Detective, which I know you haven't.
It's because I watched all the things that inspired it, and I don't have to watch what came after.
But it's good.
I don't like Matthew McConaughey either.
Yeah, well.
I'm an actor, bro. Yeah, that's
He's
great.
actually pretty good in that, though. Thankfully, it's fitting to his character a little.
Have you ever seen Killer Joe?
No.
Okay, well then you can't talk, can you?
Have you ever seen Casino Royale?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Another.
What about Jeffrey Wright?
Jeffrey Wright plays Felix Leiter in this film. Jeffrey Wright,
An American.
You may know now. He's on Westworld now. He plays Bernard.
The dog?
Yeah. And what do you think about him in this? Because I think he's great.
Yeah, I like him in every... Yeah, he's kind of like Mads. It's like everything.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, if I see that he's in a movie, I'm like, yay!
He was recently... He had a small role in Game Night. I don't know if you watched that.
No.
Okay. You should actually watch that. I'm going to make a case. It's real good. Okay.
I don't believe you.
I hate contemporary comedies. And this is fucking good. All right. Listen here. This one is like, it's like, yeah, it's shot and edited like a thriller rather than a comedy. Okay. Just do it. Just trust me on this one. Have I ever steered you wrong?
Yeah. You mean from the writer of Herbie Fully Loaded?
I don't know what you're talking about.
What are you doing? Crack?
Yeah.
The guy that did the screenplay of Frank McCluskey CI?
Can change, Garrett.
I think you just need to admit on air.
He wrote The Country Bears.
You like shitty movies.
He wrote The Country Bears.
Okay?
Which is horrible. It's terrible.
Do you see who you're talking about now?
Yeah, I don't know how he wrote all that and then wrote this, because it's actually pretty good.
No.
Okay. No. Fair enough.
I mean, you can like it.
Well, Jeffrey Wright is in it, and
he's uncredited, so he's
pretty good. Part. He has a very small part.
Yeah, well, then...
but it's great. It's a great little bit part.
Okay. Well, maybe one day.
I love it when people act. I love it when good actors act badly in movies.
Why?
Like when they play somebody that's bad at acting. It just cracks me up because I'm like, I know you're a good actor. Anyway, I don't know why. I made a point to you in our like, I don't know, off the air, that Jeffrey Wright, I was pissed that he wasn't in any of the other ones, but apparently he's in Quantum of Solace, and I didn't even remember that.
Which shows you how terrible that movie is.
Yes. Apparently he's in it. I can't remember for the life of me what he does in that, but I don't know why they never used him again, because Felix Leiter was like on and off a pretty integral part of Bond, on and off, but
doesn't he like
movie dedicated to him? But
doesn't he like meet Bond at like a party and they have to get rid of a body or something, and he's like, I'll stay here and take care of that, you go and do whatever.
Something like that. He's supposed to be the American Bond.
Yeah. And
Jeffrey Wright is like so good at that, like American Bond.
Why don't they do a spin-off
with him?
With him, and then you have your Black Bond right there.
That's true.
It's already in universe. Wouldn't that be cool to have a? That way you don't have to have. You could have it smaller. I
always thought there should be a Felix Leiter movie. I've always loved his character and all that, and
so you don't have to have big budget with lots of explosions and car chases and stuff. Just have him hanging out at parties and doing stuff. Like Sicario, but with Jeffrey Wright.
Hey, I would watch the hell out of that.
Right? Have Sheridan direct it.
Oof. Okay, stop it. Yeah, and I don't know why they never used him. He should have popped up even for a small little bit in Skyfall. There's either a point in Skyfall or Spectre where Bond communicates with an American, And there's no fucking reason for that to not to been Felix. Wherever it is. Just put him in there. What, did he just disappear off the map after this one? That makes no sense.
Maybe they just didn't offer him very much money since he was just a bit guy.
Maybe. But you would think that they would know, right? That Felix was somewhat important to the Bond lore at some point. I mean, they cared enough to put him in the movie. License to Kill is completely about Bond getting revenge on him. For him, I mean. Like, he disregards, he throws out his 00 license and says, fuck all y'all, I'm going off on my own to get revenge for Felix. You know, he's sort of this important part, but, you know, he was never used again. So another thing you wanted to talk about was, and I guess we kind of touched on it earlier when we talked about the grittiness of this movie, but how sort of visceral the violence is.
Yeah, like when he's beating that guy up in the bathroom against the sink and everything.
Yeah.
I didn't expect because I saw this when it was first out at the theater. I didn't expect the violence to be that kind of violence. And then the same thing with the torture scenes. I didn't expect torture scenes to be in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's punctuated. There's brief moments of it. Yeah. But I thought it was interesting, like we said before, about it kind of being more along the lines of Bourne, where he's a lot more physical in his violence. Some of that kind of crept over into the Bond stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He got dirty. He got blood on his cummerbund.
Well, there's that part where he strangles the man at the bottom of the bottom of the staircase, and it's just like brutal. He's doing it for like 3 minutes. He's just choking the guy out. It's game changing for Bond. It is. There had never been anything really up to that, like that level up to there. Maybe License to Kill. It had some pretty graphic stuff, but nothing.
A lot of it was, it's like he would have a silenced gun. He'd have his little PP7, and he would go and do stuff. But like hand to hand, he really didn't get that confrontational. So it's just kind of interesting to see that.
Or where he kicks a guy over the railing, and the guy falls like 20 stories. Yeah, that's brutal. What movie is it? It's not a Bond movie where someone like uses a body and falls all the way down.
That's Bourne.
It's Bourne, eh?
Yep.
I think Mythbusters did that, and I think it worked. No, it didn't work at all.
Well, they show him limp.
Which Bourne is that? Doesn't he shoot somebody on the way down?
Yeah, it's the first one. He's in a big stairwell, and he falls down with the body, and then he shoots people on the way down, and then crushes them at the bottom.
I love the Bourne movies, though.
I do. Yeah, the first
my
3
action trilogy.
Yep. And then they had to fucking ruin it. Yeah, I hated the new one.
It's horrible. It's really bad.
Yep.
Let's not get on a tangent for that one, because I'll get pissed off.
But I saw that at the theater, the new one. I'm like,
so did I.
You're never getting my money again.
People were talking the entire time, and I was like more invested in their conversation about their granddaughter.
Yeah, we can't have nice things.
Nope. Everything is always ruined, much like the Bond franchise and Spectre. Anyway, speaking of, so we talked a lot about. Actually, there's a couple more scenes I want to get to before. I know I'm kind of bouncing.
No, go for it.
Here's a scene: the car crash scene.
Mm-hmm. Ruin that beautiful car.
Destroys the Aston Martin. How great is that crash, though?
It's fantastic.
In one shot. It doesn't break away. It doesn't do any stupid editing cuts and jibs and all that.
Full of CG.
Yeah, you actually see the car. It rolls like 20 times. Didn't they break a record for most times the car rolled?
Yeah, I mean, I just off the top of my head, it seems like that was what happened.
It's crazy. The car barrel stunt roll by the Aston Martin DBS broke the world record for the most barrel rolls assisted by a cannon.
Okay.
Originally, the racing specifications of the DBS, did you hear my Sean Connery come out? Meant that a standard ramp would not be sufficient to get the car to roll, so the special effects team was called in to install an air-powered cannon behind the driver's seat. And this allowed the car to complete 7 full rolls. The stunt was officially entered into the Guinness Book of World Records on November 5th, 2006. That is from IMDb. It's crazy.
There you go.
It's crazy. And every time that crash is so, again, we go back to the realistic and brutal violence. I don't know how he makes it out of it.
Yeah.
But, whatever. ruins that car. That's a gorgeous car. And I'm not even a car guy. That's a gorgeous car. And the other scene I wanted to talk about. A while ago, we were talking about how humanizing this movie can be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the scene that accents it most is the shower scene. Know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
This small little character moment where Vesper's shaken up after watching Bond choke a man to death for 3 solid minutes at the bottom of a staircase. And also she helped him kill him. He finds her in the shower and she's like fully clothed and just sitting down and shaking. And for some reason I misremembered the scene, but I thought that he just sat down and just didn't say anything. But they have this little moment. She says something like, "You see, like, I can't get his blood off my hand." And then he goes, "I can help with that." And then he like licks her fingers, which is really weird. But it's just Bond. I took it as Bond being Bond, and being that like womanizing sort of asshole. And then he quickly realizes that she's legitimately shaken up. And then he stops, and then he just holds her. And I think that's sort of the moment where his armor breaks. He talks about the armor later.
Mm-hmm.
That would be sort of the moment where that's chipped away fully. Like, I legitimately care for this person, and I have to help her this. Because, yeah, I've killed a bunch of people, but she hasn't. So it's really interesting and really humanizing in that way. And it, makes the final line about her with the bitch is dead to be all that more poignant when he goes back to his old ways. And if anything, his armor is even stronger now.
Right.
Until they fucking throw it away in Spectre again.
It would have been a great jumping off point. Yeah.
Yeah, it really would have. But that's probably in a film full of a lot of awesome sequences, like the park sequence, or all of the poker sequences, or the car crash, or the torture scene. I keep coming back to that shower scene as probably my favorite scene in the whole, which is really odd.
Yeah, well, that's fair though. I mean, it has like a really good combination of both. Where sometimes a film will have too much of one or the other, and it's like it feels like the film is either bogged down or it's too slow, and you're ready for it to get back to the action. But it's like when it's the action, it's thrilling. When it's the character parts, it's touching. They kind of know how to write that in and edit that so that it comes through as being interesting in both aspects. It's I didn't think about it, but in rewatching it this time, it's kind of amazing like how quickly it goes through the whole casino part of it.
Yeah.
Because they don't necessarily like stop and explain. You don't see like a bunch of hands. It's kind of like everything that's put in there is the stuff that's needed to get the plot to keep going.
I think Vesper and Mathis are kind of there for the audience's sake at times.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of moments where he's like, "The only hand that could beat that is this." And then it's
right.
He's like, "See." But yeah, like, we get an hour and a bit of build up to that, and then that's gone in like 30, 40 minutes. They go through. Did I derail what you were saying?
No, that's exactly the direction I was going. So,
and then there's that really interesting bit. There's that really interesting bit too, where he gets poisoned and he goes out and runs out to the car. Oh, that last hand nearly killed.
What? Like that's the funny part, and then like where he's thanking Vesper, and the people over the intercom think he's thanking them.
Yeah.
So it has some nice little comedic parts too.
Yeah, they all work well.
Yeah.
Or when he orders the drink and he orders it really, really like, fancy, and then everybody else is like, "That sounds good. I'll have one too." But then conversely later when he comes back and he goes, "Just a martini, shaken or stirred. Does it look like I give a damn?" He's all pissed off.
Well, it's funny too when everyone is like saying that they want drinks too. Mads is like, "Is everybody finished now? We can play cards."
Yeah. Yeah. It's really. Did you see Solo, a Star Wars story?
I did not.
So that movie has some kind of dumb moments. It's actually okay. It's kind of fun, but it has some dumb moments of like, "Oh, you ever wonder how Han Solo got his dice?" Or, "Oh, you ever wonder how Han Solo got his gun?" Or the worst is, "Oh, you ever wonder how Han Solo got his name, Han Solo?"
Because he was by himself.
Yeah. This movie does a lot of that too, but it's more subtle. the first time we hear him go Bond, James Bond, or how did he get his 00 license, or when did he sort of not invent maybe, but when did he invent his drink?
Right. Well, I mean, the other thing is,
it's an origin story. It works. It's an origin story that has 20 movies before it.
And multiple people who had been the character before. This isn't the first time that they tried to change it, because there had been other characters that did not work before, and then finally they found someone who actually fit the material.
Yeah.
So maybe when Solo has 20 movies, and it's been multiple people past Harrison Ford, I will be able to accept someone else in that role. But until then, I'm not going to. So stop trying.
Yeah. He's okay in that role, by the way. Which is the best you can be when you're trying to do a Harrison Ford or a young Han Solo. Is shockingly not bad.
The problem is, so much of that role is tied into the actor. It's just like they have that new Magnum PI TV show.
I watched a bit of that yesterday.
We don't care about the story of Magnum PI. The thing that made it interesting was the actor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't have him. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's like, I don't care to see another talking car TV show. It was because Hasselhoff was funny as that guy.
Yeah.
That's the reason why everyone liked it.
You ever wonder how Han Solo got his chin scar?
Don't care. Yeah, he
They didn't do that in that one. That's for the sequel.
No, that was Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
No, it was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Right, yeah.
Which was actually, that's not that bad.
Well, they got River Phoenix too, and he's actually a good actor.
R.I.P. Rivy.
We like your brother too.
How good does his Joker look?
I like it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the movie, to be honest. This is the most excited I've been over a DC film in years.
I know. This is
and De Niro is in it. And
he?
It's produced. Yeah, and it's produced by Scorsese.
One, eh? Yeah.
Yes.
And this is coming from somebody who actually likes Batman versus Superman. I'm actually excited for this movie. You didn't see Justice League, did you?
No. And I didn't see Wonder Woman.
Okay, Wonder Woman's pretty good. Wonder Woman's better than most of the Marvel movies. But Justice League is it is interesting.
And then I didn't see Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, it's fine. Back off on another tangent, are we?
Yeah, it's a movie podcast. What the fuck are you gonna do?
Yeah, we've been pretty good. This is 4 episodes without a lot of tangents. First time we've gotten off on one.
Well, it has a lot to do with franchises that have multiple actors playing the same role.
That is true. Yeah.
And I think it really does tie into the concept and the mindset of why do you accept Daniel Craig as Bond when in other movies you don't accept that person. Because to me, Bond is a more fully fleshed out character. Bond existed in books previous to him existing in the movie form. Also, I mean, Casino Royale, as you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, was a movie from the 60s, and like 5 or 6 different people played, air quotes, James Bond.
Yeah, well, it's not even an adaptation. It's just
right.
This is the name.
And there's, spy things, but it's almost like a creep show where it's like multiple different creative teams making multiple different stories, and it was a complete failure, but it's an interesting failure.
That's interesting then. Why is there such an uproar over like Alden Ehrenreich playing Han Solo? Is it because of Harrison Ford? But then what would you like, was there any uproar back when Roger Moore was picking up the reins of James Bond?
Yeah, because Roger Moore wasn't the first.
Yeah, but the one guy, the George Lazenby one, it didn't work, so they just went back and did another Sean Connery one.
Right. Because they tried to change the tone. They tried to make it more serious.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work. It didn't make money. Even though really that movie's not bad. Especially if you look at it now, you're like, that's not a bad little James Bond film. It would have been interesting to have seen where they would have went.
I gotta watch that again. I watched it when I was young and I hated it because it was boring.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is it's more serious and it's more straightforward. And you don't have the flash and flare, which is what kind of made Bond. But then it's like Roger Moore came in, and it's like with Doctor Who or any of these others that have, and I think it's probably easier in British culture because that happens a lot with people coming in and out playing different roles. Like with Shakespeare, you always have different thespians playing those roles.
Well, and they're less bitchy then.
Well, and a lot of them have like great talent.
That's
so it's
true.
But I mean, it's the same thing. Even roles that are done like fantastically well and they're different characters, you still have people arguing about who's the better space captain. Is it Kirk or is it Picard?
That's true. Yeah.
So even though it's not, it's obviously Kirk.
It's actually Jonathan Archer.
Oh gosh, I think we can all agree that none of those people are any. It's Janeway. So it's like even when you have different characters.
I like Jason Isaacs in Star Trek Discovery.
That's fine.
I don't like Star Trek Discovery. It's bad. I only watched half of it and I didn't like it.
Next Generation is different enough, but it's like when people, it's okay for them to exist at the same time. So I think you're always going to have people arguing over which is the best, but the thing is, when you have a cultural phenomenon like Christopher Reeve playing Superman.
Yeah.
Okay, there were other people that played Superman before him. There's George Reeves was in the black and white, and then you had like a dancer guy that did films, and then you had like TV shows and stuff. Before then, you had the cartoon. He was voiced by somebody different. But it was like when he came and they did the iconic version, then it's like everyone will compare any of the new ones to that until it gets changed. Everyone compared the Joker to Jack Nicholson until Mark Hamill did a fantastic job with the voice on the animated series, and then until Heath Ledger did a fantastic job in The Dark Knight. So now it's not so one-sided, and people will say who their favorite is.
Mm-hmm.
Based on that, but it's not like there's only one singular vision of what the Joker can be. But then you have someone like Jared Leto, who the concept of the Joker completely fails, and he's almost completely edited out of the film. And then when he's in the film, he's not convincing, and it's cringy. All those things work against it. So even though there's that precedent of other people being able to be accepted as that character, it just doesn't work.
I'm not gonna kill you. I'm just gonna hurt you real bad.
Right, and that's the thing. Like Jack being crazy, it's not like The Shining was the first time Jack was crazy.
Yeah,
he literally a few years previous to that played a psych ward person in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But during the film, when you're watching The Shining, you don't go, man, I wish Kubrick was Milos Forman and could direct Jack in a good way that would make his character be different or interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even in your mind. You base it, if there's a criticism to that, it's like, yeah, that's Jack Nicholson. It's kind of like his portrayal in that film became what you knew Jack for, just like Smokey and the Bandit is that's Burt Reynolds.
Yeah. R.I.P. Birdie.
Yeah, so you can't get someone else to play the Bandit without being compared to Burt Reynolds because he made that role.
What if we just get Jackie Gleason?
It's not going to work. What if we get him to play both?
Oh, he's bound down.
How sweet it is.
Nice ass.
I will never forget that.
What else have you got for me for Casino Royale? Anything else?
How do you think that they measure up against other spy movies?
We touched on it a little bit earlier. Casino Royale is pretty good. It's one of the better ones, I think. As a standalone, I think I like it more than all three of the Bournes, even though I like the three Bournes. Like, it's my favorite action series, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what other spy movies are there other than the other three to compare.
Well, I mean, you can kind of the Mission Impossible is kind of
Mission Impossible is interesting because like one is pretty good, 2 is that's bad.
2 is entertainingly bad.
2 is bad. 3 is all right. 4 is great. 5 is pretty good, and 6 was great. three movies in a row that were solid. Just like watching Tom Cruise almost kill himself, but
And that's kind of the thing. Like, Mission Impossible does all the big action, the stunt set pieces that you would previously think about for Bond.
yeah.
So it's kind of hard because Mission Impossible does that better. It's almost like they put the entire budget and Tom Cruise can actually do a lot of the stuff. So that really helps, having that in camera. And then the Bourne movies are a lot more visceral and violent, and they have like a ton of like car chases, which that's kind of like one of the things they're even known for is the violence and the driving of the cars. And Bond, obviously, in this movie specifically, but even through the Daniel Craig movies, have incorporated into that. So it's not really like a signature of the Bond series. And then a lot of the Austin Powers kind of takes the campy, cheeky stuff and the double entendre, like the Pussy Galore and things like that. It makes fun of that so much that you almost can't get away with that anymore. And it kind of seems like modern Bond is kind of stuck outside of doing the things it was known for, and it can't really get away with doing them, but it also can't really rival what the new ones are doing either. And it's just kind of in a weird spot.
So it almost needs to do a full shakeup again.
I think so. And I wish they would have done it at 25.
You almost need to get I know it's a circle jerk, a Nolan or a Denis Villeneuve on board. And you need to just break it down and do just like a pure espionage kind of thing.
Nolan would lean too heavily on the old ones. If you want to have it do its own thing, you would need a Edgar Wright. You'd need a Danny Boyle. You'd need someone that's going to clash and have creative differences, and they won't make it that way.
It's unfortunate. Well, their second Danny Boyle was fired from Bond 25 over creative differences. I was mad because I knew that they just wanted to do something basic again. They didn't want to do anything different.
Yep.
And after Spectre, I want something different, or I want something done really, really, really well, like Skyfall. Skyfall is not really different than, it's just a really good Bond movie. It hits all the beats that it has to, and it hits them very well. It doesn't do anything different, but Danny Boyle would have done something.
Could you imagine an Alex Garland Bond movie?
See? Yeah, I would love that, but I can't imagine it. just do it in the style of Dredd. Is that what we're talking?
I mean, you could. Oscar Isaacs as Bond.
See, I'd be all right with that. That'd be okay. I think you could do it.
Carl Urban actually would be a really good Bond.
Carl Urban as Bond. Yeah. Okay. Alex Garland, get on this. Come on. What's he doing right now? Next movie.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Annihilation just came out this year, so I don't know. I mean, if he's working on anything, it's probably secretive.
Was that this year? Was that 20 years?
Yep. It was one of the, February this year.
It felt like last year. But I don't know, like a Tarantino Bond movie? Would that also, do you think, fall too much on the old?
I think, the cinema that Tarantino pulls from isn't conducive to a Bond film. Because I think during that era was when the Bond films were the worst.
Mm-hmm. But do you think he could do something? You think he could make another Roger Moore-esque film? How he made Death Proof? And it was very much like an exploitation kind of thing?
Yeah, but all of his films have that exploitation slant.
That's true.
So
I'd like to see him do anything, but I would also like to see him original. If he only has 10 movies, I want him to do his own thing. Or just put two mismatches together, like his Star Trek. What the hell's up with that?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Who cares? Let's do it. It feels like such a weird pairing that I'm down, and I kind of am interested.
I mean, if you really wanted to go crazy, you could get, Idris Elba to be Bond and get, Jordan Peele to direct it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. No, that's coming off of Peele only doing one movie, though.
Well, I know.
Directed movie. But I agree with you. Yeah.
Well,
but they never do that because
get Ryan Coogler.
The big uproar, that would be great. That would be really good.
And get Michael B. Jordan to be Bond.
No, thank you. I don't think that would be good.
You don't like Michael B. Jordan?
I do. I don't think he'd be a good Bond.
Well, I think that's why you should get him, because he would be different.
Now he'd be a good Felix Leiter playing young Jeffrey Wright. What if you do like a Godfather Part 2? Old Felix is doing something, and young Felix is doing something. I mean, it's not really Godfather Part 2, but you know what I mean. And get Coogler to balance the two of them.
Right. I understand what you're saying.
Regardless, there needs to be a change in this series, right? Or it's going to die, and it's going to die a very pitiful death, and that death is going to look like Spectre until the end of time.
Get David Lynch.
See, that's what I mean by like when a direct is so out there that it's interesting. I want to see it. Like if you handed David Lynch, I don't fucking know. David, do a Marvel movie. I'm gonna get real weird with it. That's okay. That's okay. Just do it.
Yeah, but we already had Lynch try to do a mass film, and it was Dune.
Yeah, but the studio ate that to shit.
I know.
Now, could you imagine like if Lynch did something and the studio didn't eat it to shit?
I just don't ever see that ever happening.
Didn't he do the Straight Story?
Right. And where can you go and buy that on Blu-ray?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Here, David, do a Pixar film. I mean, I have this idea, and it's about a movie about ocean.
It's a movie about the alphabet, and while someone is puking them up. David, you already did that in the 60s. Oh yeah. Whoops. Look here, Sonny.
It's about to happen again. You got anything else on Casino Royale?
No, I like it, and I wish they would do something with Bond that would be interesting.
I agree. It's a fantastic Bond movie. Again, probably my favorite Bond movie. But you know, it's stale now. The series is getting there. Like Skyfall was good, but Spectre just showed that it's almost a fluke. I don't know what's going on, because they even had Sam Mendes back for that. I don't know if it's the studio. I don't know what it is. But, you know, firing Danny Boyle over creative differences obviously is not a step in the right direction. But at the same time, like I said, I liked Beasts of No Nation, and I liked True Detective. And what I've watched of Maniac so far has been all right. So maybe Fukunaga could do something. And I butchered his name probably again. Maybe he could do something interesting. We'll have to see.
Rob Zombie's Bond. Official clown business.
Yeah, you know, we'll see. Let's hope they can save this franchise.
25 is a nice round number, though.
That is true. That is very true. Well, if that's everything, what the hell are we doing next week?
Albert Broccoli. As a kid, I always lived at one of the names of the producers.
I know, right? I laughed my ass off every time.
What are we doing next week?
Digital Drive-In. We're going to be looking at something different. You know, we've traditionally been doing older films that we like. You know, Casino Royale is, I think, no, we did Fury Road. But obviously that was, you know, instantly a classic, but nothing that's been a month old, right?
Oh, so like a family film?
Yeah, exactly. We're watching the Looney Tunes back in action.
Oh, gosh. Fuck you, cracker!
No, we haven't watched anything super, super recent, as in still in theaters / just came out on digital. We'll be watching Mandy, starring Nicolas Cage, a film Garrett has seen and I have not yet seen. But
well, you better see it by the time we.
I'm not gonna. I don't have time.
Cheddar Goblin, everybody.
We'll be watching that. We'll be talking about that, and that one's still in theaters or on digital. Where is it, Garrett? It's on iTunes and Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, if you're listening and you don't want it to get spoiled, should they check it out, Garrett?
I think so.
Apparently, it's a good movie, and I might watch it and think it's garbage, and then that'll be a very weird episode.
I will have to disown you.
I'm sure I'll be fine. Once again, you can catch us all here at the Digital Drive-In every. That's it. That's all. Follow us on Twitter at digital_podcast. That's that's digital_podcast on Twitter. There'll be a link in the description below.
Okay, Alex.
Well, I think that'll do it. We'll see you all next week.
We'll say goodnight, Scoob.
I don't know. I think that's about it for this one.